A billionaire, Elon Musk, was walking through the streets of San Francisco one chilly evening, lost in thought about his latest SpaceX project. As he passed a dimly lit alley, a voice called out, "Elon!" He turned, startled. Standing before him was a man in tattered clothes, his face weathered by years of hardship. Elon squinted, trying to place him. Then it hit him, like a lightning bolt. Mike Johnson." The man nodded, a faint smile breaking through his cracked lips. 20 years ago, Mike had been the one who pulled Elon out of a burning car after a horrific accident. Back then, Mike was a firefighter, a hero. But life had taken a cruel turn, and now he was homeless, forgotten by the world. Elon's heart raced as memories of that fateful day flooded back. What happened next would not only change Mike's life, but also remind the world of the power of gratitude and second chances. A billionaire, Elon Musk, stood frozen in the middle of that San Francisco alley, his mind racing. Mike Johnson, the man who had saved his life 2 decades ago, was now standing in front of him, homeless and unrecognizable to most. But Elon remembered. How could he forget? It was the summer of 2003. Elon was just a young entrepreneur, driving home after a long day at his first startup, Zip2. He was exhausted, his mind buzzing with ideas and to-do lists. As he approached an intersection, a truck ran a red light and slammed into his car. The impact was devastating. Elon's car flipped, skidded across the road, and burst into flames. He was trapped, unconscious, and seconds away from death. That's when Mike Johnson, an off-duty firefighter, appeared out of nowhere. Without hesitation, he rushed toward the burning wreckage, ignoring the danger. Using a crowbar he grabbed from a nearby construction site, Mike pried open the door and pulled Elon to safety. Moments later, the car exploded. Elon survived with minor injuries, but Mike disappeared into the crowd before anyone could thank him. Elon had tried to find Mike over the years, but the man seemed to have vanished. Until now. Standing in that alley, Elon felt a mix of emotions: shock, guilt, and an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "Mike," he said, his voice trembling, "I've been looking for you for years." Mike looked down, embarrassed. "I didn't think you'd remember me," he muttered. "I'm not exactly the man I used to be." Elon's heart broke as he listened to Mike's story. After retiring from the fire department, Mike had fallen on hard times. A failed business, a divorce, and a battle with depression had left him homeless. He had been living on the streets for the past 5 years, forgotten by the world he had once served so selflessly. Mike's voice cracked as he spoke. "I lost everything, Elon. My job, my family, my home. I tried to start over, but nothing worked. I've been living day to day, just trying to survive." Elon couldn't believe it. The man who had saved his life, a man who had once been a hero, was now struggling to survive. "Mike," Elon said firmly, "you saved my life. Now it's my turn to save yours." Elon didn't just give Mike money. He invited him to his home, where they spent hours talking about the past and the future. Mike shared stories of his time as a firefighter, the lives he had saved, and the pride he had felt in serving his community. Elon listened intently, his respect for Mike growing with every word. The next day, Elon brought Mike to Tesla headquarters. As they walked through the bustling offices, Mike's eyes widened in awe. "I can't believe you built all this," he said. Elon smiled. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mike. You saved my life, and now I want to help you rebuild yours." Elon introduced Mike to his team, sharing the story of how Mike had rescued him all those years ago. The room fell silent as Elon spoke, his voice filled with emotion. "This man is a hero," Elon said. "And today, we're going to make sure he gets the second chance he deserves." What happened next would not only change Mike's life, but also inspire millions around the world. Elon didn't just give Mike a handout, he gave him a purpose. He brought Mike into his team, where they worked together to create a program to help homeless veterans and first responders. Mike's story became the heart of the initiative, reminding everyone that heroes come in all forms, and that no one should ever be forgotten. Elon Musk sat across from Mike Johnson in the quiet confines of his private office at SpaceX. The room was bathed in the soft glow of evening light, the hum of the city far below them. Mike fidgeted nervously, his hands trembling as he held a cup of coffee. He wasn't used to this luxury, attention, or kindness. 4 years, he had been invisible, just another face in the crowd of a city that had long forgotten him. But now, sitting across from one of the most powerful men in the world, he felt a strange mix of hope and fear. Elon leaned forward, his eyes locked on Mike's. "Mike," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "you saved my life. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here today. None of this," he gestured to the room, the building, the empire he had built, "would exist. I owe you everything." Mike shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was just doing my job, Elon. I didn't expect anything in return." "But that's the thing," Elon replied. "You didn't have to save me. You could have walked away. But you didn't. And now, I'm not going to walk away from you." Elon's words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Mike's eyes filled with tears, but he quickly wiped them away, embarrassed. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. "I've been on my own for so long. I don't even know where to start." Elon smiled, a rare, genuine smile that few ever saw. "You don't have to say anything, Mike. Just let me help you. Let us help you." The next morning, Elon took Mike to Tesla's headquarters. As they walked through the sleek, modern building, Mike couldn't help but feel out of place. He was still wearing the same tattered clothes he had been found in, and the stares from employees made him uncomfortable. But Elon didn't seem to notice, or if he did, he didn't care. He walked with purpose, his hand occasionally resting on Mike's shoulder as if to reassure him. They entered a large conference room where a team of executives was waiting. Elon introduced Mike to the group, his voice filled with pride. "This is Mike Johnson," he said. 20 years ago, he saved my life. Today, he's going to help us save others." The room erupted into applause, but Mike was too stunned to react. He looked at Elon, confused. "What do you mean?" he asked. Elon's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Mike, you're a hero. But you're not the only one. There are thousands of people out there, veterans, first responders, everyday heroes, who have fallen on hard times. They've been forgotten, just like you were. But we're going to change that." Elon unveiled his plan, a new initiative called Project Second Chance. The program would provide housing, job training, and mental health support to homeless veterans and first responders. Mike would be the face of the initiative, sharing his story to inspire others and raise awareness. Mike was overwhelmed. I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. "I'm not a public speaker. I'm just a guy who used to fight fires." Elon placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're more than that, Mike. You're proof that no matter how far someone falls, they can rise again. And you're not alone. We're going to do this together." Over the next few weeks, Mike became an integral part of the project. He worked closely with Elon's team, sharing his insights and experiences to shape the program. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was thriving. But the real turning point came during the launch event for Project Second Chance. The room was packed with journalists, philanthropists, and celebrities. Mike stood backstage, his heart pounding. He had never spoken in front of a crowd before, and the thought of it terrified him. Elon found him there, pacing nervously. "You've got this, Mike," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Just tell your story. That's all you need to do." Mike took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. The spotlight was blinding, and the sea of faces in the audience made his stomach churn. But then he saw Elon, standing in the front row, nodding encouragingly. Mike began to speak. He told his story, how he had saved Elon's life, how he had lost everything, and how Elon had given him a second chance. His voice shook at first, but as he spoke, he grew more confident. By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. The audience erupted into a standing ovation. Mike looked out at the crowd, his heart swelling with pride. For the first time in years, he felt like he mattered. He felt like a hero again. The launch of Project Second Chance was just the beginning. For Elon Musk and Mike Johnson, it marked the start of a journey that would test their resolve, challenge their limits, and ultimately change countless lives. But as with any ambitious endeavor, the road ahead was far from easy. The first challenge was finding the right team. Elon hand-picked a group of passionate individuals, social workers, psychologists, and former military personnel, who shared his vision. Mike, despite his initial hesitation, took on a leadership role. His first-hand experience with homelessness gave him a unique perspective, and his humility and honesty quickly earned him the respect of the team. The program's first initiative was to provide immediate housing for homeless veterans and first responders. Elon purchased a vacant apartment complex in San Francisco and transformed it into a state-of-the-art facility. Each unit was fully furnished, with access to counseling services, job training programs, and medical care. Mike personally oversaw the renovations, ensuring that every detail was perfect. "This isn't just a building," he told the team. "It's a home. And for some of these people, it's their first real home in years." But the real test came when they opened the doors to their first residents. Among them was Sarah, a former paramedic who had lost her job after a traumatic incident left her with PTSD. She had been living in her car for over a year, too ashamed to ask for help. When she arrived at the facility, Mike was there to greet her. "Welcome home," he said, his voice warm and reassuring. Sarah broke down in tears, overwhelmed by the kindness and support she had been missing for so long. Another resident was James, a retired Marine who had served 3 tours in Afghanistan. After returning home, he struggled to adjust to civilian life. A series of bad decisions left him homeless and estranged from his family. When James met Mike, he was skeptical. "I don't need handouts," he said gruffly. Mike nodded. "This isn't a handout," he replied. "It's a hand up. And you've earned it." As the weeks went by, the facility began to fill up. Each resident had a story, a life derailed by circumstances beyond their control. But thanks to Project Second Chance, they were given the tools to rebuild. Sarah started therapy and enrolled in a nursing program. James reconnected with his family and began working as a mentor for other veterans. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous. But not everything went smoothly. There were setbacks, residents who relapsed, programs that didn't work as planned, and critics who questioned the initiative's sustainability. Elon and Mike faced these challenges head-on, constantly adapting and improving the program. "Failure isn't an option," Elon said during one particularly tough meeting. "Not when so many lives are at stake." Mike, too, had his moments of doubt. There were nights when he lay awake, wondering if he was truly making a difference. But then he would think about the people he had helped, the smiles on their faces, the hope in their eyes, and he knew it was worth it. One of the program's most ambitious projects was the creation of a job training center. Elon envisioned a place where residents could learn new skills, coding, engineering, renewable energy, that would prepare them for the jobs of the future. Mike was initially skeptical. "These people have been through so much," he said. "How can we expect them to learn something so complex?" Elon smiled. "Because they're capable of more than they realize. And because we're going to make it easy for them." The training center was a game-changer. Residents like Sarah and James thrived in the hands-on, supportive environment. Sarah discovered a passion for renewable energy and began working on a project to bring solar power to underserved communities. James, who had always been good with his hands, excelled in robotics and even helped design a prototype for a new Tesla vehicle. But the real breakthrough came when Elon announced that Project Second Chance would expand nationwide. The success of the San Francisco facility had caught the attention of philanthropists, corporations, and even the government. Elon and Mike traveled across the country, sharing their story and inspiring others to join their cause. One of their most memorable stops was in Detroit, where they met a group of homeless veterans living in an abandoned factory. The conditions were dire: no heat, no running water, and little hope. But as Elon and Mike spoke to the group, something incredible happened. One by one, the veterans began to open up, sharing their stories and their dreams. By the end of the visit, Elon had pledged to build a new facility in Detroit, and Mike had promised to personally oversee its development. As the program grew, so did its impact. Thousands of lives were transformed, and the ripple effects were felt across the country. But for Elon and Mike, the most rewarding part was seeing the residents' confidence grow. They weren't just surviving anymore, they were thriving. One evening, as they stood on the rooftop of the San Francisco facility, Elon turned to Mike. "You know," he said, "this all started because of you. You saved my life, and now you're saving so many others." Mike shook his head. "No, Elon. This started because of you. You saw something in me that I had forgotten was there. You gave me a second chance, and now we're giving that to others." Elon smiled. "We make a pretty good team, don't we?" Mike laughed. "The best." It had been 2 years since the launch of Project Second Chance, and the initiative had grown beyond anyone's wildest dreams. What started as a single facility in San Francisco had expanded to over 50 locations across the country, helping thousands of homeless veterans and first responders rebuild their lives. But for Elon Musk and Mike Johnson, the journey was far from over. The real test of their partnership, and the true measure of their success, was yet to come. The climax of their story unfolded at a gala event in New York City, hosted by Elon to celebrate the second anniversary of Project Second Chance. The venue was a grand ballroom, filled with some of the most influential people in the world: philanthropists, celebrities, politicians, and business leaders. But the real stars of the evening were the residents of Project Second Chance, who had traveled from across the country to share their stories. Elon took the stage first, his presence commanding the room. "2 years ago," he began, "I met a man who changed my life. His name is Mike Johnson, and he's the reason we're all here tonight." The audience erupted into applause as Mike walked onto the stage, his face glowing with pride. He stood beside Elon, his hands clasped nervously in front of him. Elon continued, his voice filled with emotion. "Mike saved my life 20 years ago, and in doing so, he gave me the chance to build a future. But when I found him again, he was homeless, forgotten by the world he had once served so selflessly. That moment changed me. It reminded me that no matter how much we achieve, we're nothing without compassion." And so, Project Second Chance was born, not just to help Mike, but to help thousands of others like him. The audience was captivated, hanging on every word. Elon turned to Mike. "But tonight isn't about me. It's about the real heroes, the men and women who have overcome unimaginable challenges to rebuild their lives. And it's about Mike, who has been the heart and soul of this initiative from the very beginning." Mike stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "When Elon found me that night in San Francisco, I was at my lowest point. I had lost everything: my home, my family, my hope. But Elon didn't see me as a homeless man. He saw me as a person. And he gave me something I thought I'd never have again: a second chance." He paused, looking out at the audience. "But this isn't just my story. It's the story of everyone who has been part of Project Second Chance. People like Sarah, a former paramedic who is now working to bring renewable energy to underserved communities. People like James, a retired Marine who is mentoring other veterans and helping them find their way. And people like so many of you in this room, who have supported us and believed in our mission." As Mike spoke, a video montage played on the screens behind him, showcasing the stories of residents whose lives had been transformed by the program. There were tears in the audience, but also smiles of hope, pride, and inspiration. When Mike finished speaking, the room erupted into a standing ovation. Elon stepped forward again, his eyes glistening with tears. "Tonight," he said, "we're not just celebrating what we've achieved. We're celebrating what's possible when we come together to lift each other up. And we're committing to do even more." He announced the next phase of Project Second Chance, a global expansion. The initiative would now extend to other countries, helping homeless veterans and first responders around the world. The audience was stunned, but the residents of Project Second Chance cheered the loudest. For them, this wasn't just a program, it was a lifeline. The evening ended with a surprise. Elon turned to Mike and handed him a small box. "This is for you," he said. Mike opened it to find a key to a new home, fully paid for and furnished, in the city of his choice. "You've given so much to others," Elon said. "Now it's time for you to have something for yourself." Mike was speechless. Tears streamed down his face as he hugged Elon, the weight of everything they had been through together finally hitting him. "Thank you," he whispered. "For everything." The audience rose to their feet once more, their applause echoing through the ballroom. But for Elon and Mike, the moment was quiet, intimate, and deeply personal. They had started this journey as strangers, brought together by fate. Now, they were partners, friends, and brothers in a mission that had changed not only their lives but the lives of countless others. The success of Project Second Chance didn't end with a gala in New York City. In the years that followed, The initiative continued to grow, touching lives in ways Elon Musk and Mike Johnson could never have imagined. What started as a single act of kindness, a billionaire reaching out to the man who had once saved his life, became a global movement, proving that no act of compassion is ever too small to make a difference. Mike Johnson moved into his new home, a cozy house in a quiet neighborhood just outside San Francisco. It was the first time in years he had a place to truly call his own. But Mike didn't stop there. He continued to work with Project Second Chance, traveling across the country to inspire others and share his story. His humility and authenticity made him a beloved figure, not just within the program but in the broader community as well. One of his proudest moments came when he was invited to speak at the United Nations. Standing at the podium, Mike looked out at the sea of faces and felt a surge of emotion. "I was once a man with nothing," he said. "But because someone believed in me, I found the strength to believe in myself. And now I'm here, standing before you, proof that no one is ever too far gone to be saved." Elon Musk, too, found a renewed sense of purpose through Project Second Chance. While he continued to push the boundaries of technology and innovation, he made it a priority to stay involved in the initiative. He often said that helping others was the most rewarding work he had ever done. "We can build rockets and electric cars," he told a reporter, "but if we're not also building a better world, what's the point?" The program's impact was felt far and wide. Sarah, the former paramedic, went on to lead a non-profit that brought renewable energy to underserved communities. James, the retired Marine, became a motivational speaker, sharing his story of redemption with audiences around the world. And countless others, men and women who had once been forgotten, found new hope, new homes, and new beginnings. But perhaps the most profound impact was on Elon and Mike themselves. Their partnership had started as a chance encounter, but it had grown into something much deeper. They were no longer just a billionaire and a homeless man, they were friends, united by a shared mission and a shared belief in the power of second chances. One evening, as they sat on the porch of Mike's new home, watching the sunset, Elon turned to him. "You know," he said, "I used to think success was about changing the world. But you've taught me that it's about changing lives, one person at a time." Mike smiled. "And you've taught me that no matter how far you fall, there's always a way back up. All it takes is someone willing to lend a hand." The two men sat in silence for a while, the weight of their journey settling over them. They had come so far, but they knew their work was far from over. There were still lives to change, stories to write, and second chances to give. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Elon stood up and extended a hand to Mike. "Ready to change the world?" he asked. Mike took his hand and stood. "Always." The story of Elon Musk and Mike Johnson is a reminder that no act of kindness is ever too small to make a difference. It's a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and second chances. But it's also a call to action, a challenge to each of us to look around and see where we can make a difference. So, the next time you see someone in need, remember this story. Remember that heroes come in all forms, and that sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness to change a life. Because in the end, we rise by lifting others. And together, we can build a world where no one is ever forgotten.